it's me, Emma Ferguson, and welcome to the beginning of the Cold War. Many different issues led to the Cold War. One of these issues was the Yalta Conference, also called the Crimea Conference, and codenamed the Argonaut Conference. The aim of the conference was to create some kind of post-war peace amongst nations involved in the war and Nazi Germany. Another agreement was made that the states Poland, Czechoslovakia, Hungary, Romania, and Bulgaria would be nations under free election. Stalin, being the man he was, broke this promise of free election, forcing his power over them, eventually leading to a breach of trust amongst the Big Three. But that's just one incident that contributed to the Cold War beginning. The Potsdam Conference was the last of the meetings between the Big Three before the end of World War II. Stalin and Truman came to some agreements on what was to be done with Nazi Germany post-war, including that Germany would be demilitarized and de-armed. But Stalin was determined to collect massive reparations from Germany as they did invade his country. The other two of the Big Three, Churchill and Truman, were very hesitant to go through with Stalin's demands, which caused another breach of trust between the three of them. The division of Germany and Berlin was an extremely prevalent issue. This division of the nation was provisional, and while this division existed, the ruling nations decided they wanted more power for themselves, and they began to pursue their occupational wants. The division was supposed to unify Germany, but ended up doing the complete opposite, considering all the nations with power over Germany had completely differing political views that they enforced among the people they ruled. Germany in all was torn apart. The Truman Doctrine was a foreign policy with the goal to counter Soviet geopolitical or communist expansion during the Cold War. In basic terms, the premise of the doctrine was that the root and main cause of communism was the Soviet Union and that nations should stand together to prevent that. Truman told Congress that it must be the policy of the United States to support free people who are resisting attempted subjugation by armed minorities or outside pressures. The Berlin Airlift was put into effect after a blockade was established by the Soviet Union. This airlift project took place over the course of just under a year. Because the west of Berlin was controlled by the Allies and the east was controlled by the Soviet Union, this act of help was an act of unity to the nations but not to the leaders. The North Atlantic Treaty Organization was an international alliance that consisted of 29 states from North America and Europe. The purpose of the NATO was to prevent nations from being satellite captured by the Soviet Union and being forced to become communist. All of these events led up to the beginning of the Cold War, and they are all connected to one thing: communism.